Thirsty Thursday. It's Thursday night. Yeah, it's Thursday night. All right, Rockfin, thank you. Let's check Rumble. Are you okay? Yes, you are. Let's get ready to rumble.
Doobie-doobie-doo. 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 I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. Doobie-doobie-doo. 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 I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. Doobie-doobie-doo. 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 I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
All right. Welcome back, guys. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you are new, I want to let you know that Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays and Fridays, and you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. Shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble, and welcome back, guys. Have pretty interesting stories tonight. We also have a couple of guests coming on at 9 p.m. Eastern time to chat about what happened at that RFK Jr. event. So they were there. I'm excited for all of this. Let's go ahead and get into it. It's going to be a pretty busy week. For those of you who don't know, Saturday, just FYI, we are having a labor organizing summit over at Revolutionary Blackout Network. The headliners are Shama Sawan and Chris Smalls. So don't miss that. That'll be an all-day event. So let's get into it, guys. Shout out to Myra's mama says, hey, Sabby and all y'all. Greetings, Miguel says, peace. Shout out to Bryce says, Sabby. What's going on? Sam says, what's up, Sabby? See the little B? B. Shout out to Hannah says, oh, Bummer is back. Yes, he is back, not in a good way. Greetings, Mastermind. If you can do 2 simultaneous streams, I am listening to the Dead Dog Saloon live stream of the Craig Soros project. Interesting. I've never heard of that. Shout out V says, Mastermind, I'll look into that. Greetings, Lawrence, who's a Sabby member, says, almost Sabby time. What's going on, David? Buck Owens and his buckaroos. I got a tiger by the tail, the queen of the country. 44.4K subs. The U.S. government is on the run. Interesting. Shout out Ilhanner says hello to Lawrence. Greetings, Lorez says, hey, y'all, Sabrina, Eric, and Sabby fam. Smash the like. Got your back. Great, you're back. Think you mean got your back, Sabrina. His chef died. Whoa. Oh, yes. We'll get into that story. It's very interesting. That story has also changed over the past 24 hours. Shout out to Mark says, Sabby. Greetings, Sam says, Obama chef said, make your own damn food. It didn't go over so well. Yikes. Greetings, Nikki World says, hello, everyone. Shout out to Randy says, good steamy evening, Sabby comrades. It is steamy here. It is very humid. We have had a very rainy summer, believe it or not. I don't think I ever remember having a summer which is this much rain. Like it's rained almost, it feels like almost every day. Shout out to Desert Mantis says, I just left Rumble. I was watching Glenn Greenwald's channel. Good pick. Shout out to Dr. Nick says, hi, everybody. What's going on, New Sheep says AOC and her crazy eyes in the video thumbnail. LOL. Yeah. Greetings, Eric, who's a Sabby member, says happy Thursday to all Thursday peeps. What's going on, ACAB, says hello, everyone. Shout out to Robin, who's a Sabby member, says happy Thursday, everybody. Let's do this. Shout out to Deneen, says hi, Sabby. Hi, chat. What's going on? Aaron says, howdy, y'all. What's up? What's up? I am not. Dr. Nick says, Sabby wearing pink in honor of the new Barbie movie. I actually didn't even think about that, but pink is my favorite color, but I guess it's just a coincidence. But I actually did not see the Barbie movie. I actually want to go see Oppenheimer instead. If I'm going to spend money to go to the movies, I'd rather go see Oppenheimer. I can catch the Barbie movie another time. Shout out to Joe, says, blessings on high to you, my family. Thank you and shout out 118 Debbie for the super sticker. Sup, 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 sup. Greetings, Red says, hi, Sabby. Shout out to the garden. Moose says, pretty in pink. Oh, thank you. And I love that movie, by the way. For those who don't know, I love 80s movies, especially the ones with members from the Brat Pack. Like, I love Molly Ringwald. I love 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, like The Breakfast Club. I love all those movies. Those are my jam. Shout out to Jay, says, what's up to Desert Mantis? Greetings, Dwayne says, hola, mi amigos. Dwayne is also a Sabby member. And shout out to Gamer, says, hello. All right, I want to go ahead and get started because I do have guests coming on at 9 p.m. So let's go ahead and shout out Sabby patrons. Thank you guys so much for your support. You really do hold down the fort. A little bit of a rhyme there. Thank you, everyone who's a Sabby patron. If you're interested in being a patron, I have 5 categories: Ultimate, Sabinators. There's also Sabsters. Don't forget about those Sabbies. And of course, members. All of their names are listed here. You can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker. And I want to give a special shout out to a new Sabby patron. Over here, we call them newbies. Let's give it up for Brendan McGovern and Debjani Baumick. Whoop, whoop. Let's give them a thumbs up, guys. Whoop, whoop. Thank you guys so much. Really do appreciate your support. Okay, let's go ahead and get right into that thumbnail so we can see the stories that we are discussing tonight. Should be a pretty interesting show. Have a mixture of topics here. Tonight, we are discussing, I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. Let's get real. Tonight, we are discussing Barack Obama's chef drowns. Do, 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 do. That is a very interesting story that has changed over the past 24 hours. They're probably still developing as I speak, but we're going to get into that. And I'm also going to explain to you how this feels a little bit like deja vu, just a little bit. I'm also going to discuss RFK Jr.'s confronted. Hot damn. RFK Jr. had an event in New York City. And yes, he was confronted by protesters. And we're going to get into that. And 2 of those protesters will be here tonight to explain their side of the story as well. We're also going to discuss AOC is exposed by New York Magazine. Yes, she is. They're actually finally calling AOC out for what she really is. Just the same old Democrat. We'll get into that and we'll take a look at some of the things that she said before she turned into such a thing. And we're also going to discuss Harvard University legacy issues. So this is a story that may have flown under the radar. It's right here in Massachusetts. I want to cover that. That'll be my little local tidbit for the week. Plus, I think it will apply to other universities in the future. And we'll finish those Tennessee ballot measures as well. If you haven't had a chance to do so, go ahead and start us off right and smash that like button. That helps me out with the algo. And we're going to go ahead and dive into this first story. I just want to start out by saying I have never agreed with legacy admissions. Not once. I worked in universities for over a decade. I never thought it was fair. And now apparently, because of that Supreme Court ruling to overturn affirmative action in universities, it appears that now other groups, including civil rights activists, have decided that legacy-based admissions is unfair and unjust. I want to go ahead and get into this clip from NBC We're going to start with this one where they actually discuss the inquiry into Harvard-based legacy admissions and the civil rights groups that decided to push back. And then we're going to show you where they are right now today, because Harvard University is facing yet another lawsuit. Let's go ahead and get into this clip here.
Late tonight, we are learning the Education Department is opening up a civil rights investigation into Harvard and its policy of legacy admissions. You know legacy admissions, right? That's when schools give preferential treatment. They sort of give the edge to people whose families already went to the school. This whole issue of legacy admissions has been very much in the spotlight since the Supreme Court's ruling that struck down affirmative action. Some critics of that decision said essentially, well, okay, how is legacy admissions getting in because of your family allowed? Some advocacy groups say about 3/4 of those legacies who are white would not have gotten in if it wasn't for their status. Spots, they say, would have been given to other applicants otherwise.
Let's pause here for just a second, and I want to chime in about legacy-based admissions. Having been on admission committees, I want to explain to you how this works. So let's say you have an applicant who is a legacy. Now, if they're a leg, that means that someone in their family, it could have been their father, their mother, their grandfather, etc., graduated from Harvard University. There are other colleges that have this as well. It's not just Harvard, like Yale and Princeton, etc. Even Amherst College here in Massachusetts, which is not considered Ivy, so to speak, but it is a hoity-toity liberal arts school, right? I don't know how else to describe it, but a hoity-toity liberal arts college. Even they had legacy-based admissions, but they actually removed it fairly recently. But basically, the way that this would work, let's say that you may not meet all the requirements that Harvard is looking for, but you're a leg. And what that means is that because you have someone in your family that graduated from Harvard, even if you don't meet all of those requirements that Harvard is looking for, that means you can still get in simply because you are a legacy. Now, a lot of these legacy members of universities like Harvard or Princeton or Yale, it is not uncommon for them to donate to the university once they have graduated, right? I don't know about you, but I didn't donate to my college. I did not. I didn't donate to my college. They called me literally the week after I graduated from undergrad asking for money. And I was like, honey, I took out student loans. I have to pay back, the education that I got. I have to pay that off. I don't have money to donate to you, especially because you want a new baseball field. There was nothing wrong with the one you had. No. So I haven't, but it's not uncommon for some of these legs. If you look at Harvard and you look at some of the people that graduated from there, like Robert Kraft, who owns the New England Patriots, people like Mike Bloomberg, it's not uncommon for them to donate to the university once they have graduated. So legacy also equals money. And if a student who is a leg goes to that college, it's most likely that they're probably going to donate once they graduate as well. But it's not fair. And it reminded me of something. If you ever saw the movie Legally Blonde, we're going to go back for a minute. In the movie Legally Blonde, I remember there was this scene where, Elle actually went to Harvard University to get her ex-boyfriend back. Like, it's not like she wanted to be a lawyer, but she went there to try to impress him and show him that she can be intelligent and to get him back. When she got there, she realized that her boyfriend already had a fiance, so he was already engaged to someone else. That's how fast that happened, right? But his fiance told Elle at one point, did you know Warner didn't even fully get in? And Elle was like, what? And she goes, he was waitlisted. She said it just like that too. He was waitlisted. His daddy had to make a call. That's very real. I know Legally Blonde is a movie, but those things do happen where sometimes the parent who is a legacy of that school will make a call to make sure that their kid gets in. And no, it's not fair. You shouldn't be allowed admission just because someone from your family went to that school. And a lot of times those people tend to have money. That's not fair. And it does take spots away from people who may have earned it based on the admission criteria. Let's continue.
Harvard tells NBC News in a statement that it is in the process of reviewing its admission policies to make sure they comply with the law. Let me bring in Jake Ward, who is covering this story that is developing tonight for us. And it is an interesting one, Jake, because the Supreme Court striking down this affirmative action policy, huge deal, right? Monster headline. We covered it several weeks ago, end of June, when this happened, because it is significant for the way that, you know, the potential for it to reshape college admissions. There was talk even then of critics of this policy, advocacy groups for students of color, who said, well, wait a second, if you're going to take aim at affirmative action, you got to put legacy admissions in the spotlight, too, right? Talk us through this.
Well, that's right, Hallie. I mean, we're in a world in which, in theory, according to the logic of the Supreme Court in their recent decision, you know, admissions are supposed to be even. It should be merit-based and not take anything else into consideration. But as research after research has shown, there is so much more to it than we thought, right? It turns out that being admitted to one of those top 12 or so universities and colleges, whether it's Ivy League colleges or places like Stanford or MIT, makes a tremendous difference to your financial prospects. And it turns out now, as the spotlight is coming in on Harvard, that it is not the world we, or the Supreme Court has been insisting we live in. You know, we are not living in a place where it's all merit-based. It turns out, according to multiple complaints now, that it is far from a simply merit-based system. It has everything to do with prior advantages in life. And that's, of course, what we're looking at tonight.
Right. This is 100% correct. And it's not fair. It's not right. Danny said Malia Obama was legacy admitted. Bingo. Obama, remember, Obama went to Harvard. He went to Harvard Law School, but still, it's still Harvard. Right. So she was a shoo-in. Like, these things aren't right. These things aren't correct. And Rhett says, turns out this has been known for years. I know. I'm kind of surprised. He's like, turns out it's not always merit-based. Duh. It should be merit-based. Is supposed to be merit-based, but there are other factors at play. And so now what's happening is that some of the civil rights organizations, since that overturn of the affirmative action in reference to universities, they're kind of sitting back and saying, well, wait a minute, this is not fair, because if they're going to overturn affirmative action-based admissions at these universities, then shouldn't they also overturn legacy-based admissions? Because let's be real. Who is usually admitted under the legacy status at these elite institutions? White kids. That's typically who is admitted. Now, technically, none of this should matter at all. Technically, these admissions committees should not look to see if you are legacy. They should not look to see what your race is. They should not look to see any of that stuff and just base it on the merits. But unfortunately, it's become so competitive over the years, particularly at those types of institutions, that they had to find ways to weed people out. And one of the number one ways they do that, and I talked about this weeks ago when the Supreme Court had that overturn, one of the number one ways they do that is by the standardized test scores, the SAT scores, the ACT scores for those that are going into the graduate programs, the GMAT, the GRE. That's usually what we had to look at first, right? So I think that college, to me, should be, attainable for everyone. I don't think you should have all these different tests in place to hold people back and prevent them from getting that opportunity. Now, the reason why colleges do this is because the ranking system, they want to, if they're in the top 10, they want to stay in the top 10. Trust me, I know. If they're in the top 20, they want to stay in the top 20. And they feel if they just admit anyone who applies, then that means that if those students do not perform well while they are students there at that college, that will hurt their ranking. That's what a lot of times what this is really all about. And your ranking can affect donations. So again, it all goes back to money. Let's continue.
Some schools have already started getting rid of this, right? The New York Times had a report now about how much the top schools, they're pointing out sort of how this policy gets into place. I'll tell you, it went viral on my feeds, this sort of assessment of the way that legacy admissions works. Talk us through that.
Well, that's right. I mean, you now have several universities, including my alma mater, Wesleyan University, along with Amherst and others, deciding that they are going to do away with legacy admissions. You have everyone, on that list there saying that.
We're just going to pause here for a second. Carnegie Mellon is in Pennsylvania. Amherst is here in Massachusetts. Wesleyan University, I also believe, is I forget where Wesleyan is, but John Hopkins is in Maryland. So these universities have already decided to eliminate a legacy admission.
They recognize that this is an unfair treatment. I mean, you've got to think about, right, the stats that go along with the complaint that we're seeing from the department, the investigation that we're seeing from the Department of Education now into Harvard-specific policies. You know, they are looking at numbers that really are pretty shocking, right? If you look at the 2019 class alone, nearly 30% of those admissions are legacy or donor-based admissions. And when you look, I mean, as you said, that cited quote there from a study out of Duke University found that at Harvard, 3/4 of people who were either donor children or legacy children or athletes would not have been admitted. Those are white applicants who would not have been admitted. The other one, you know, that really shocked me, I just...
Pause here for a second. Over 30%. That's crazy, right? Over 30% of them would have not been admitted. Legacies and donor-based admissions. Living right here, like in the Boston area, it's not uncommon to meet someone that attends Harvard that is not a leg in some way, shape, or form. That's not uncommon to meet someone that said, my dad went there, my mom went there, or my grandfather went there. Like, it's more common than you would think. And it also means that they are actually missing out on great talent. You know, there are other applicants out there that I think, you know, are really creative, very intelligent, and maybe intelligent in other ways, right? That they're just missing out on that talent because they're picking so many people that are legs and so many people that are donor-based admissions. Now, why is this unfair? It's unfair because not everybody has a rich mom and dad. Not everybody has wealthy grandparents that can donate to a university or can donate to the library of a school so that there's so much money that the school renames the library after them and their kids just get a freebie, just walk right in. Not everybody has that. So essentially what they are doing is they are closing the door in the face of people who are poor and people who are working class and those that are middle class as well. They're closing the door right in your face and telling you, you don't get to walk through this door unless you do this. So those applicants actually have to achieve so much more than someone who is a leg or someone who has a donor-based admission. And that's not right.
I'm looking down at the complaint here is, you know, the donor-related applicants are nearly 7 times more likely to be admitted than non-donor-related applicants, and legacies are nearly 6 times more. So, you know, if you just cast our mind back, Hallie, to that, you know, decision and the arguments being made in the Supreme Court that somehow we're going to live in this world in which these you know, things other than merit are not going to be taken into account, it just turns out we are so far from that, and that seems to be why this investigation is underway.
Jake Ward, thank you very much for your reporting and for bringing this to us tonight. Appreciate it.
Okay, so they have moved forward, by the way, and now Harvard is being sued. This is not the first time within the past 5 years. Remember, there was that lawsuit against Harvard University in reference to their admissions of Asian students. Remember, this was a big deal where come to find out that they were discriminating against Asian applicants that were qualified to attend the university. So here they go again with another one. So I'm going to bring up this clip where it says Harvard sued over overwhelmingly white legacy admissions. And here comes the lawsuit.
What its critics call a different form of affirmative action is now being challenged at Harvard University. 3 minority advocacy groups are suing the school over its legacy admissions, which gives preference to the children of alumni. This comes just days after the Supreme Court decision ended race-conscious affirmative action in higher education. CNN's Athena Jones, she joins us now with the details. And Athena, this has been percolating for some time outside the debate over affirmative action for racial preferences, the question of whether it's fair to give preference to the children of alumni. So where does this, what argument does the lawsuit make, and where does it stand?
When he said percolate, it reminded me of that song, It's Time for the Percolator. Do you guys remember that? It's time for the percolator. It's time for the percolator.
Hi, Jim. That's exactly right. This is really a discussion about merit. What qualifies as merit? If you're going to focus on merit, can you also give special preferences to people who have a parent or relative who went to Harvard or who are big donors to Harvard? These three groups, the three Black and Latino groups, are joining together to say that no, that is not fair. They say that these legacy and donor-related admissions, they get preferential treatment. The vast majority of them, nearly 70%, are white. And so what this amounts to is a policy that ends up giving an advantage to rich white students and disadvantages other students who don't have those connections or are minorities. Now, the complaint notes that the district court called these preferences given to legacy applicants sizable and significant. And the complaint really goes to great lengths to spell all this out by providing a lot of data using admissions numbers. And so let's look at some of that. They found that for the class of 2026, just under 2,000 applicants gained admission out of an applicant pool of more than 61,000. But look at that admission rate. 3.24% is minuscule. But it's very, very different if you are related to someone who has donated to Harvard or if you have a parent or relative who went. For donors, those applicants were 7 times more likely to be admitted with an admissions.
So again, money talks. So if you were the child of someone who donated to Harvard University, you were 7 out of 10 more times likely to be admitted. Money talks. When I tell you this country works for people that have money, this is just one example. It's not just education. It also applies to the employment field as well. Because think about it. Think about the kids that graduate from college, graduate with undergraduate degree, and think about the kids who easily just already have their foot in the door at some of these prestigious companies because of who they know and because they know them because they are connected to people in their family. Those people have the resources. Another thing I want you to think about too, a lot of these kids that are able to go to schools like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, a lot of times they come from families that have enough wealth to give their kids private tutoring when they're in high school. And that includes SAT tutoring as well, so that they can get high scores on the SATs, whereas everybody else doesn't have that option, doesn't have that opportunity because tutors are expensive. Their families can't afford to pay for it. So essentially, again, wealth is being rewarded. And those who are not wealthy are being punished. Why should that be the case in reference to education? Like, it shouldn't be the case, period. But when it comes to education, education should be a right, not a privilege. We have it backwards. If you look at countries that have tuition-free college, that makes sense. Why are we making it so difficult for people to attend a university? Why do we do that? And I don't want to hear there aren't enough professors, there aren't enough classrooms. Don't even come at me with that. Because having worked in the university system for over a decade, I got to tell you, there are a lot of professors. A lot of them just aren't hired at these schools. So there's plenty of people out there that really want to teach. The university likes to be cheap and not hire as many faculty members as they need. Instead, they'd rather overload adjunct professors instead so that they can save money.
Rate of 42%. If you have a parent or relative who went to Harvard, you were 6 times more likely than an ordinary student to be admitted for an acceptance rate of 33%. And so this complaint argues that this is just not fair. They want the U.S. Department of Education to call on Harvard to stop doing this, to call this practice discriminatory. And of course, the timing of this matters so much because it's less than a week since the Supreme Court severely limited the use of race in college admissions. And so these groups are arguing that if the court is going to do that about race, it is now even more imperative to eliminate any policies that disadvantage minority students while advantaging white students. Jim.
Well, one interesting thing about these cases, if you go back to the Harvard case, the data that the lawsuit found was a whole host of benefits that came in the process, including for athletes. Right, folks who play sports, they got a big boost over the general population. But there were specific ways that this complaint lays out about how legacy applicants benefited during the admissions process. Can you lay out a couple of them?
Sure, this is so interesting. You're right. Athletes, people who have athletic skills, they also get a special leg up. But when it comes to legacy and donor applicants, they get all kinds of what the university calls tip factors that get weighed into their application. So for instance, if you are related to a donor, you could end up on the dean's interest list, which includes ratings for how important the donor is to Harvard. If you are one of these donor-related or legacy applicants, you have your application closely monitored throughout the entire process. They say it's annotated, so notes or symbols are added to make sure that admissions officers pay it special attention. And these folks also get flagged again when they're trying to narrow down the final pool of applicants. These legacies get flagged again. So a lot of advantages here that these groups are arguing are not fair and should be eliminated.
It'd be interesting to know if the dollar amount of donations can be correlated with increase in chances of admission. Part of a longer conversation. Athena Jones and you.
But education should not be for sale. Like, this is a big problem. And I told you I never agreed with this. I never approved of legacy admissions. And this is not right. And it's gone on for a long time. And it shouldn't just be Harvard. Like, all of these universities need to stop the legacy-based admission. Like, you shouldn't be guaranteed entry just because your parents or your grandparents were fortunate enough to be able to attend that university. You should have to meet the requirements just like everybody else. And it's really, I wonder about the future of education in this country. Like, I really do. This is a disgrace. It's been going on for a long time. I don't know why NBC and CNN are acting like they just realized this. This has been an issue for a long time. And it hasn't been talked about the way that it should. But no, I'm not down with the legacy-based admissions. JB said, this is why I think we should have tuition-free college and technical school for all. Then no one will be left out. But then some people will not have an outlet to show they're better than others. That's another thing too, like people like to have that to hang over people's heads. I went to Harvard. Thank you for the super chat, Dr. R. These legacy Ivy League schools can't be that great if these graduates go on to run the U.S. government and corporations. How's that going? That's a good question. Very good point. And David said it goes to show you that more kids should look into picking up a trade instead of going into debt fresh out of these overpriced colleges. And that's another thing too I want to mention. You have to start looking at alternatives. You have to start looking at higher ed alternatives, because at the end of the day, I don't know how long this is going to last, how long people are going to be able to keep up with this, because college is continuing to increase tuition. They're not decreasing tuition. They're not stabilizing tuition. And eventually it's going to get to the point where how many people are going to be able to afford to go to college? I'll take that comment on Rockfin, Roger. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott agrees with Sabby on legacy admissions. Sabby, when they called you after graduation asking for donations, you should have told them, help me get a 6-figure income job first, then we can talk. I like that. Also, this legacy-based admissions craps allows mediocre, mostly white, but not all, to get in high places with doing the least amount. Bush Jr. was a damn cokehead who did nothing but party in college. Another thing I want to mention too, another thing that legs can actually do is that, one second. Another thing that legs can actually do is that if they're having difficulty in a class, or let's say they got a bad grade from one of their professors, their parents, who is the leg, can just contact the school and complain, and they can get that grade reversed. I've seen that happen too. I'll take that other comment, Eric. It's a crazy world out there. I'm telling you, it's a tough, tough world. Thank you for this tip as well, Roger. It's time for the percolator during the house music days. Sab, you said Money Talks, another house song. Money talks, dirty cash, I want you, dirty cash, I need you. Oh. That aside, I still say high schoolers study abroad for free. Black students, you too, study abroad. Make even HSBCUs buckle until public colleges and universities offer attendance free of charge, causing private to offer low-cost attendance. Yeah. Like if you can, you have the opportunity to go to college overseas, especially if it's a country where it's free, I say go for it. Go for it. All right. We're going to get into this next story here about AOC. I don't know if you read The New Yorker, but every now and then I'll take a peek at it. They have an interesting story. And this story was pretty interesting. They are now criticizing AOC for being just a regular old Democrat. This was also the same magazine that praised Richie Torres, saying how progressive he was because he checked off all the boxes. It was also the same magazine that praised AOC and said that she was just a bartender, and here she is. And we've also talked about that on the show, how she was not just a bartender, how that also wasn't true as well. Well, now they are finally admitting that AOC is just another Democrat. Who would have thought? So they start off here. AOC is just a regular old Democrat now. Well, duh. Let's get into this. I actually want to make this a little bit bigger. There we go. AOC's recent appearance on Pod Save America podcast had for me the feeling of a final disappointment. The kind that's a little sad, but brings a set of quixotic hopes to a close. AOC appeared on the popular Crooked Media show to announce her endorsement of Joe Biden for president in the 2024 election. To deliver that particular endorsement, while appearing on that particular podcast, where former Obama administration staffers defined the limits of acceptable left of center opinion, was to send a very deliberate message. It was AOC's last kiss off to the radicals who had supported her, voted for her, donated to her campaign, and made her unusually famous in American politics, the beneficiary of a wholly unique cult of personality that is now starting to come undone. I want to interject here. It's not starting to come undone. It started to come undone a couple of years ago, when some of us were actually calling that out. It was magazines like New York Magazine, and it was people like Ben Burgess and Jacobin who were still coming to her defense, while some of us told you exactly who she was a couple of years ago. We were the bad person. Now it's okay to admit it because she endorsed Joe Biden. And what's interesting to me in this article, he mentions that for him, the final feeling of disappointment was her endorsing Joe Biden. Not her choosing to become a scab and not support the railroad workers and having a strike. For some of us, it was forced to vote. When some of us went back to force the vote, we were like, okay, this is not going the way that we thought it would. We know they're not going to fight. That didn't ring off alarms for this journalist. What about when she chose to fund the police, the Capitol Police? That didn't send off alarm bells? What about when she voted to send billions of dollars to Ukraine? That didn't send off alarm bells? No, all these things, it's supporting the Iron Dome, all these things that she did, I'm talking about legislation, the way that she voted, for whatever reason, it took her endorsing Joe Biden for that to really send off a red flag when there were so many other flags all along. That's interesting to me. An endorsement of a sitting president, after all, doesn't have to be a ceremonial affair. AOC could have sent out a tweet. In making her announcement in a forum where the hosts were saying that a vote for anyone but Joe Biden was a vote for Donald Trump, a distillation of the hollow "we're not Trump" message that Democrats have been loudly pushing for the past 7 years. AOC was putting a bow on a half-decade-long drift from radical outsider to establishment liberal. Since taking office in January 2019, she has deferred to party leadership again and again on the issues that matter, even as she made token gestures of resistance to solidify the illusion that she is a gadfly. And increasingly, She seems stung by criticism from the left to the point where she appears ready to simply embrace her party and its politics with open arms. In the 2021 interview with the publication of the Democratic Socialists of America, AOC attacked left critics of the Biden administration on idealitarian grounds. We really have to ask ourselves, what is the message that you are sending to your Black and brown and undocumented members of your community, to your friends, when you say nothing has changed? This is a stark example of what socialist critics have accused Democrats of doing for years, that they forbid criticism and enforce loyalty to the party, though through vague accusations of racism and references to people of color and other marginalized groups. Yet during the very period in which she gave that interview, the Biden administration had been busily deporting tens of thousands of undocumented immigrants, almost all of them Black and brown, and she said nothing. But when it was happening under Donald Trump, she was at the border pretending to cry. She was being an actress. Where's that same compassion for those undocumented immigrants that have been deported by Joe Biden? Kids are still in cages at the border. Where are those tears now? It's just complete silence. So we tried to tell you exactly who AOC was, but we were the bad guy. I was mean. I needed to be more patient, they said to me. I needed to give her more time to get her feet wet. These are the things that I was told. I was asking for too much. How dare you criticize her for not trying to do what she ran on? People were mad at her supporters instead of being mad at the politician for forsaking the people. Let's go on. Less than 3 years earlier on the campaign trail, AOC had sung a very different tune about partisan politics. At a campaign event in 2018, she addressed how Brett Kavanaugh could be confirmed to the Supreme Court despite the sexual assault allegations against him. She said, when people say, how could this have happened? It is because of the slow slide of our public institutions. When too many people sat on the sidelines and read the news and said, wow, that's crazy, time to go to class. In her consistent fealty to the Democratic Party leadership, she has done exactly that, lamenting about how crazy the world is, then hurrying off to dutifully follow the lead of her superiors. In other words, she decided to choose her career, even though she said she didn't care if she was a one-term congresswoman. Believe she said that in her interview with Jimmy Dore, actually. You see, some people were really angry and really upset when Jimmy Dore decided to call the squad frauds. But yet here we are. Now some of those same people are like, oh my God, I can't believe this. How could they do this? As if they've been blind all along. I don't think they were blind. I think they were still counting on this progressive strategy through the Democratic Party working out, because then it makes them more credible. And I think you guys know the people I'm talking about, the people who pushed this, the people who started this. They don't look as credible now. Let's continue. There are two indelible images of AOC, neither of them flattering, that bookend her evolution. The first photo of her weeping outside an immigration camp in Texas in 2018, before she had won election to Congress, dressed all in white. She wails in protest of kids in cages, the phrase employed by activists to denounce Trump-era immigration policy. The protest itself wasn't offensive. Our treatment of migrants at the border is indeed indefensible. The trouble lies in what didn't happen next. When Biden took office in 2020, American immigration policy did not meaningfully change. This is often chalked up to the pandemic restrictions, but those restrictions are long gone, and Democrats have not made significant changes to Trump's border policy. There are literally still kids in cages. So why isn't AOC at the border again, protesting her country's president? You have to remember the purpose of Justice Democrats was to push back against Dem establishment and reform the Democratic Party. You see, it's really easy to appear to be tough when the president of the United States is a Republican and you're coming in as a Justice Democrat. But oh, how things shifted and changed when the president became a Democrat. All of them fell in line. Every now and then, Ilhan Omar will get a couple of nuggets in there, but for the most part, they fall in line. The second image of AOC is the 21 Met Gala, a who's who of celebrity and wealth, a celebration of precisely the elitism that the left is meant to oppose. So it was a bit depressing, but not at all surprising to see this champion of the working class at an event in which celebrities wandered around unmasked while their many servants dutifully wore them in order to prevent the spread. Politicians, even lefty politicians, go to fancy events and hobnob with the ruling class. It's a fact of life. But AOC tried to have it both ways. She wore white again, this time a dress emblazoned with the words "tax the rich" in bright red. And this made her opportunity to rub shoulders with the 1%, a matter of direct hypocrisy. It's one thing to go to the party. It's another to blare out a message that you disapprove of at the party while you were there. And she was not outside in the streets with the protesters who were protesting against police brutality instead. Instead of being right outside with those protesters outside of that event, she was inside with all the rich people. This is what she really wanted at the end of the day. I really do believe this. I think she wanted this celebrity style status. I think she wanted to be a really popular politician. Remember, in other interviews, it was revealed that even AOC's mother said she always wanted to be president someday. So this idea that she was just a bartender who was just handpicked out of a bar in New York City and was this working class woman just, really struggling. And all of a sudden she was able to beat this incumbent. That is not the full story. I've told you before on this show that AOC also owned a startup. And this was left out of her description when she ran for Congress under Justice Democrats. That was intentional. When I spoke to people who formerly worked at Justice Dems, they explained that she purposely said, put the bartender part because that sounds better. The point that I'm trying to get to you is this. AOC was a con. She was an actress. From day one, she didn't tell you who she really was. From day one, if she was honest, she would have told you that she owned a startup. She would have told you that she wasn't just a bartender. She would have told you that she grew up in a pretty upper middle class suburb outside of New York City, went to a very decent school. And that's how she was able to get into Boston University. She wouldn't have presented herself as this person who grew up in the Bronx and had to struggle the entire time. That's not the story of her life. But she was a con. It goes on to say, if there is a key to AOC's political persona, it lies between these two poles. The former betrays the fundamental moral corruption of partisanship. It compels people to care about political issues precisely to the degree that those issues are convenient for the party. Losing interest in our immoral immigration system after Biden's election is exactly the sort of thing that AOC's rabid fans once said she would never do. The latter not only sees AOC transported from outside the gates to inside the most elite of venues, it also showcases AOC's increasingly half-hearted attempts to cover up her genuine predilections with the most superficial of symbolic acts. It goes into the piece here about the railroad workers. And this is the one that I think got a lot of people in a tizzy. This part right here. Take, for example, the chronic mistreatment of workers in our railway system that contributed to the derailment and the subsequent air crisis in East Palestine, Ohio. AOC publicly castigated the railway companies and demanded better conditions for the workers, then voted to forbid them from striking. It's hard to imagine a clearer example of her overhaul political orientation, speaking up like a militant supporter of workers in the press, then immediately betraying them with her vote. In other words, stabbing people in the back, smiling in your face, and then stabbing them in the back. That's cruddy. Goes on to say, she would go on to claim that this was really a matter of supporting what the workers wanted. But Railroad Workers United quickly clarified that this defense was an act of remarkable dishonesty. Labor is the heart of the left, and strikes are the sword of labor. To vote to forbid workers from striking for a supposed socialist amounts to an unforgivable betrayal of basic values. They go on to talk about the foreign policy. It's a long article. They go on to talk about her votes in reference to foreign policy, Israel, Palestine, et cetera, the Iron Dome, moving on and on. And essentially what AOC has done is she tends to walk this line where she'll do just enough to still appear to be progressive for her progressive base. So they think that they still have someone in there fighting for them. But she also appears to be establishment enough to convince Democratic leaders like Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi and, of course, Joe Biden that she's willing to play their game. And what I can tell you is this. Sometimes when you walk the line, eventually there comes a point when you have to choose a side. And that point most recently was endorsing Joe Biden. And so for some people, that was the big reveal in reference to AOC. For others, the big reveal was the railroad workers choosing to be a scab in reference to her vote. This is why walking in the middle doesn't always work. You can probably do it for a while. I've seen people do this. You can do this for a while. But then there comes a decision where you have to pick a side. And that is usually what exposes people for what they really are. Now, I want to take you back to a time when she did appear to be more progressive, when you actually did think she was going to fight for something. And that is this interview here that she had with Glenn Greenwald. I want to take you back to what she claimed to be, and you'll see the difference.
Been interviewed to CBS, I believe the morning show this week. It might have been yesterday or even today. And you said something that was really interesting when asked why you were running. You said, quote, the Democratic Party has been drifting from the real needs of working class New Yorkers, especially those like us in Queens and the Bronx. I paraphrased that last part. What did you mean by that? If the Democratic Party is not focused on the real needs of the working class, whose interests are they focused on? Whose interest are they serving instead?
I mean, that's a softball, Glenn.
Well, I don't think for a lot of people the answer is obvious. So I guess I'm interested in yours.
I mean, so for me, I actually think a lot of Americans understand and they know that the role of money in politics is extraordinarily corrosive, and that the Democratic Party is not immune from that. My opponent takes an insane amount of money from luxury real estate developers, from private equity groups, from pharmaceutical corporations and private insurance corporations, and that is tied directly to the legislation that he's been passing. And you look at, for example, 8 or 7 of his top 10 donors are primarily Republican financiers. His number 2 top donor, Blackstone, they primarily finance the Trump presidency. And moreover, they are really sucking the island of Puerto Rico dry as we try to approach a just recovery. And there's no coincidence that 2 years ago, Joe Crowley voted for the Promesa Act, which essentially allowed Wall Street takeover of the island and allowed private equity groups to essentially take over privatization of the island. Hurricane Maria was just waiting to happen, but we created the financial infrastructure for once a disaster did occur for a recovery. And and all of this stuff that we're seeing here too. You know, my family's related. I have family in Puerto Rico. We see what's happening on the island, and the idea that these are partisan issues, I think, is a joke. It's been happening with the, I think, with the Democratic Party has allowed this to happen, and it's because they're not taking these issues seriously enough. And you know, a lot of those members may bristle when I talk about this, but it's because we are speaking directly to the needs of our constituents. And for a very long time, a lot of Democrats have felt like we have to somehow compromise with the lobbyists that are financing their campaigns. But once we break
that part right there, compromise with the lobbyists that are financing their campaigns. Very different rhetoric that back then, right? Because a lot of them are doing this now. A lot of them are compromising with lobbyists that are financing other Democrat campaigns.
Free from that system where we start to finance our own campaigns with grassroots donations, we're able to speak more directly to the needs of American people. And I think that you know, if the Democratic Party is to survive this thing, that's the direction that we really need to start trending in.
Didn't happen. Did not happen. Now I want to show you another piece here when Glenn is asking her about specifically about Democrat leadership. Should it change? And what should change? This is a really revealing moment. Listen to this.
Your opponent, Congressman Crowley, has been pretty upfront about his hopes to replace Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer in the Democratic top wing of the Democratic leadership once they retire, or maybe even before that. For as long as I can remember, the Democratic Party in the House has been led by Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer. So if you are elected, will you agitate for different leaders leading the Democratic Party in the House caucus, or do you think that Pelosi and Hoyer should continue to be in those leadership positions?
No, I think that we need new leadership.
Everyone remember this. I think that we need new leadership. Yet she went on to vote for Nancy Pelosi. Who did Glenn Greenwald name? He specifically said Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer. Let me let her finish.
I think the idea that we should have the same leadership for more than one generation is probably a mistake in American politics in general. You know, when I think about my opponent trying to take Nancy Pelosi's seat, it's like, why? Like, what has he done? And I think that what we need to really look at and value, and you know, it goes back down to the idea of valuing fundraising and equating fundraising with leadership. And they're not the same thing. I think that we really need to start kind of changing our standards for leadership and what we define and what we respect as a party. And it's not to say that you know, it's not to speak to Pelosi's leadership, but it's to say, you know, what company oftentimes has the same CEO for 20 years? Or, you know, it's very rare that that happens. And what government has a president for the same president for 20 years? And the idea that the third most powerful seat in the country should just be rotated in and out by the same two people for generations, I think is a mistake in our government. Government is supposed to be responsive. And I'm just kind of inclined to think that we should be responsive in our leadership as well.
Well, those things did not happen. Those things did not happen. Like when I tell you this was all a con, this was all an act. Now, do I think like the people who promoted her, do I think originally in the beginning, like they knew that she would turn out to be this way? I don't think so. I think they honestly thought, yeah, this is someone who's going to fight. Like we believe she was going to fight. If you donated to her campaign, you believed it. If you canvassed for her, you believed it, right? It's embarrassing. It really is embarrassing. But I still go back to even a year ago when people were still trying to defend her. And one thing I will say is this: when you vote, that's on record. Okay, so you can't say, I didn't vote for this piece of legislation. All I have to do is just go pull it up on the computer. It's on record. So the way that she was voting on legislation, even a year ago, 2 years ago, that should have sent off alarm bells to people. And where is DSA? Where is Democratic Socialists of America? Why aren't they holding these politicians that are members of their organization accountable that are not following the DSA standard? Where are they? Why are they so silent? Why are they so quiet? They're nowhere to be found. Why doesn't Justice Democrats speak up when these politicians that are a part of Justice Democrats do not uphold the policies that they swore to uphold? They're very vocal on Twitter when they do the right thing, but when they do the wrong thing, they are silent. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I really do think this whole project, Justice Democrats, DSA, I feel like this was all a scam. It was just another way to bring in more money and to funnel people into the Democratic Party. I'm going to go to some of the comments and then I'll bring in my guests. We'll get started with the next story. Thank you, David. David said, if I had kids, I'd tell them to pick up a trade. Oh, I saw that one. Sorry. Thank you, McDoug, Mr. Doug. It seems like progressives such as AOC are legends in their own minds, but are really just fakes. Bernie is just a regular Democrat too. When push comes to shove, progressives just cave. Fakes. Interesting point. And thank you, none of your business. TM to organize and vote her out. Thank you for that. And thank you for this one as well. Retire her before she qualifies for retirement. I heard that Jamal Bowman might actually have a challenger, just FYI. I heard that somebody who may be more progressive is trying to, or has been asked to challenge him. Should be interesting. Okay. Before I bring in my guests, I do want to go ahead and just give you, I guess, an intro about our next story. So RFK Jr. had an event in New York the other night. This event had been moved around. I forget the reason why, but it was originally at one location. And I think the organization that owned that location said, no, we can't have you here. So it was rescheduled somewhere else, but the event still happened. And this was in an effort for him to show his undying support for the state of Israel. Now, there are two protesters. They're part of the Bronx Anti-War Coalition. They were there. I do have video footage. I know that one of them actually confronted him in reference to what happened to the Palestinian journalist. And I think you guys really need to see this. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in Ganja Girl.
Hi, everyone.
And Richie, what's up?
Hello, hello. Thank you for having us on, Sabby.
Yes, Sabby, it's an honor.
Thank you both so much for coming on. I want to start off by showing this video clip from Indie News Network. So at this event with RFK Jr., this was actually a view of the event outside. So I want you to see, all of you guys to see the line here. There were protesters. There were Hasidic Jewish protesters protesting against what RFK Jr. has to say. So I just want to show you the line of people really quick. And you can see they're protesting here in reference to Zionism. Okay, so before I get into the next clip, because the next clip that I want to show is actually Roger Meadows interviewed one of the gentlemen that was protesting, and he explains like why he's there. Both of you were at this event. What was the atmosphere like? Were there more people there that were, protesting this event, or were there more people that were in favor of what RFK Jr. had to say?
Well, RFK Jr. really didn't say much. It was completely Bo-Teach. I don't want to call him a gentleman, but the individual who was putting it on, Rabbi Shmuley Bo-Teach, And I would say that it was largely a pro-Zionist crowd inside. But on the outside, you know, with the group, with the NK group, one of the main ones who you're going to see, his name is Rabbi David Weiss. And he's actually a friend of the Bronx Greens. Good people.
All right. Let's go ahead and go ahead, Richie.
Yeah, one comment on this rabbi. He's actually pretty well known in the pro-Palestine, anti-Zionist movement in New York City. Gaijin Girl and I have seen him at many pro-Palestinian liberation demonstrations. He's very popular because of how well he articulates how being against Zionism and the state of Israel is not anti-Semitic. So we'll let him share his thoughts.
He's a real mensch.
All right, here we go. Uh-oh, Eric, it's a Twitter thing again. Let me refresh it. Sometimes Twitter does this with videos. It's kind of annoying, but they do it. There we go.
Hi.
I like to do these things, whatever.
Right, yeah.
So can you?
Yeah, with God's help, we're basically here to clarify, to educate that Judaism is a religion, subservience to God, and Zionism in the state of Israel is antithetical to that. It's contradictory to that. It's a transformation from religion to nationalism. My religion, Judaism, is 3,000 years old, and this movement of the state of Israel, this nationalist movement of Zionism, is a mere 100-odd years, and it's totally forbidden according to our Torah what they are doing. To occupy, to kill, to steal, to oppress the Palestinian people is really unacceptable. It's a rebellion against God. It's not our religion, yet they are masquerading the state of Israel in Jewish name, Israel, and the Star of David, and using all the Jewish symbols in order to stifle any voice that opposes what they're doing by accusing people of being anti-Semitic. And that's unacceptable. We want the world to know that the Zionist state of Israel has no right to speak in our name, of our holy religion of Judaism. We want the world to know the distinct difference between what we are, our religion, and what Zionism, the state of Israel, is. We are, again, people, peaceful religion of being subservient to God. We cry and hurt with the Palestinian people and their suffering. We are humiliated beyond words to what is being done to the Palestinian people for well over 75 years now, and all with impunity in the name of our religion. This is really, truly unacceptable. Unfortunately, the world seems to ignore the voice of the very religious Jews around the world who live in Palestine, who daily protest against this occupation. The words of our communities here, the very large Jewish communities that are living right here in New York, Williamsburg, Brooklyn, the largest concentration of religious Jews, where there's not one Israeli flag. We are all opposed to the existence of the state. We want the world to understand that. Unfortunately, here there's a gathering. They have Robert Kennedy is here to speak, and basically he says he's not anti-Semitic, and therefore he's trying to show support for the state of Israel. We want him to understand that that's not the route to take. The state, we appreciate people who want, have sympathy for Jews and want to help us. But the truth of sympathy for Jews would be with the peaceful and speedy and total removal of the state of Israel, the dismantlement of this impediment to peace. Because we have been for hundreds of years living together, Jews and Muslims, even though we have a distinctly different religion, in Palestine and throughout the Arab world. So the only reason that there is a rift and that there's bloodshed and ongoing upheaval is because of the existence of the state of Israel and the support that it is getting from the United States and so forth. This does not help the situation. It just exacerbates and continues this terrible Nakba, what the Arabs call Nakba, this tragedy, this terrible, terrible, colossal tragedy.
Let me just pause here for a second, and I want to pivot to you, Ganja Girl. Could you, because I know that you are Jewish, can you elaborate on when he says that he considers Zionism to be nationalism? Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Well, I think that he would, as a rabbi, he would be the one to really elaborate on that. But there's nothing in Judaism which says we must have this land right here. It's there's a huge difference between a religion and land rights and who's considered a citizen or not for a certain territory. I mean, that's just an overview. It's one of the things that is really toxic with the whole concept of Zionism is that it actually plays into what's called the dual loyalty trope, which is when you conflate Israel and Judaism, which the two do not go together necessarily. It's you don't have to be a Zionist to be Jewish, and you don't have to be Jewish to be a Zionist. They're completely different ideologies.
Well said. It's really interesting to me too. When I lived in New York, I actually lived in Midwood. I don't know if it still is today, but at that point in time, that was a Jewish neighborhood, predominantly Jewish neighborhood. The schools they had Hebrew schools and everything. I remember the first time I went to like a pizza place and I asked for like a pepperoni pizza, and that's how I realized I asked for a pepperoni pizza, and the guy was like, "You can't get them together. You can't get the pepperoni and the cheese together." And I was like, "What?" And so he explained everything to me, but I never saw this mentality, Ganja Girl and Richie. I never saw this when I lived in that neighborhood. I never heard this type of rhetoric, especially in reference to the Palestinians. I never heard this. Is this more of a newer thing, or do you think, how do you feel most people in that community feel in reference to this issue with Israel and Palestine?
I think it depends how you've been raised and how much you've thought of the whole issue. I mean, I can certainly say that growing up in my synagogue, it was certainly, whenever we talked of Israel, as in the actual state, not Israel just in general historically, but, there was a beneficial sheen to it. But so it depends on who you talk to.
Okay, let me finish this clip here, and then we're going to get to your confrontation with RFK Jr.
I've got to ask you your name. I'm sorry, sir.
Rabbi Yisrael David Weiss of Neturei Character Jews United Against Zionism.
Okay, my name's Roger Meadows.
Nice.
What is your opinion of this guy, Rabbi Shmuley?
Oh, these guys are, again, these are people who use the name of Judaism, and they really have no right to speak in the name of our religion. They use sensationalism, all different aspects and attempts to really to justify crime. They may be popular, they may be very charismatic, but they're not speaking in the name of my religion. They are totally, really contradictory with a message to our religion. And in many issues, they happen to be not jiving with the Jewish religion. But this is, of course, a case in point. The concept of supporting Israel is a direct rebellion against Jewish religion, against God.
Okay. I'm going to put...
Okay. And then he tells him what he's going to do with that video. Very, very well said. Now, I have this video here, and this is the one I think. Well, where's the video? Hold on one second. I'm sorry. While I pull up that video, Richie, I want to make sure you get to speak as well. What was it like for you? Like, what was the environment like at the event?
Yeah, so it was a mixed crowd, I would say. So definitely majority of the folks that were there were, in support of the state of Israel. Many were Zionists. And you can see from the reactions from the crowd when you play those videos when we were challenging RFK Jr. and Shmuley. But what I want to highlight about this rabbi who was outside with his, you know, some of his congregation is that he knows the religious texts inside and out. And what he's explaining is that there's nothing in the text that says that, you know, we need to be supporting this state of Israel, that we need to be supporting settler colonialism and the genocide of Palestinians. And what the text is actually telling us is that we need to be against this this nationalist fascist movement. And then he also references the movements that are happening within the state of Israel. We don't get to see the opposition to the state of Israel that's happening internally. We only get the message and the narrative that's put out by the Israeli lobby. So I just wanted to just highlight what he said. There is a large movement in Israel against the genocide of Palestinians and the apartheid that's currently happening there. But in terms of the ambience there, you know, we were definitely in the minority when we were inside as those that are anti-Zionist and those that are for Palestinian liberation. So we were definitely on the smaller side when it came to opposition.
Okay, yeah, you're right. We don't get to see that other side. We don't get to see that other side of it. The people who are against that. I want to show this clip here. So this is where, if I'm remembering this correctly, Ganja Girl, when you asked this question, you were asking RFK Jr. this question.
Yes, I was asking him specifically, and Bochich jumped in.
That's what I thought. Okay, so this clip is in reference to the U.S. Palestinian journalist Shireen Abu Akleh. For those of you, I think a lot of you remember that story about the Palestinian journalist that was killed, and she was a U.S. citizen. So let's get into this. So this is Ganja Girl confronting RFK Jr. about this particular issue.
Hi, first of all, I would like to thank you for your position on mandates. As a Jewish woman who cares for justice, I do have a question. It's been about a year since U.S. citizen and journalist Shireen Abu Akleh was shot by the IDF. It is known through both video and forensic science that it was definitely the IDF and that they targeted her. Are you willing to commit to calling for Israel to extradite the soldier to the U.S. with body cam for a public U.S. trial? She is a U.S. citizen and justice should be served. Also,
Okay, I'm just going to pause here. And we'll get through the rest of it, but I'm just going to pause here right now. Noticed immediately how quickly he stood up. Again, you were asking this question to RFK Jr., not to Rabbi Shmuley, but he immediately stands up to interject to try to prevent you from finishing your statement, from saying the rest of what you were going to say, almost as if he's trying to prevent some type of information from getting out. Was that the impression that you had?
That was definitely the impression I had. As a matter of fact, when my question came out, I saw RFK kind of look over to Bochich, like, what do I do now?
All right, let's let it finish.
Also, let me finish. Don't speak over me, sir.
Let's just do one question at a time.
Sir, please let me finish. Also, please,
if you make it quick,
can you also commit to having a conversation one-on-one with Jewish Voice for Peace?
Okay.
I'm just going to pause there too. Why the boos? Why are people booing about peace?
Because that was a very Zionist crowd, and Jewish Voice for Peace is completely and totally against the occupation.
This is wild. This is wild to me.
Wait. Let's be civil about this. What's your name, please?
My name is.
What is it? Thank you for coming to that.
That's a good question. Why did they need to know your name?
Yeah, actually, Richie, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think they asked your name.
No, they didn't ask for my name. We were wondering the same thing. You know, we're thinking that maybe they're trying to create some kind of blacklist because they don't like the questions that we're asking.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, because AOC created a blacklist, and that's why Jose wasn't able to get into the last event that he went to, because it was Jose and Lucy. They weren't able to get in. And so the thing is, that's why I was like, why does he need to know her name? And why is he standing? Okay.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Israel is a open democracy with a free press.
I didn't ask you, by the way. I asked. No.
Let Bobby will answer in a second.
He wants to be president, you guys? How is he going to be president? He can't answer this question. And I hope everyone is paying attention to this.
Yeah, and by the way, is he trying to be president of the United States, or is he trying to be president of Israel?
This is just, I don't know. I feel like this guy, and I'm going to tell you guys something about Rabbi Shmuley after this video is over, because I found out some things about him. But the thing is that it's almost like he is RFK Jr.'s handler or something, and he's speaking for him, and RFK Jr. is just sitting there. And I'm supposed to believe he can't answer that question, and I'm supposed to believe that he's going to dismantle the CIA? Is this what we're supposed to believe? Okay.
I'm going to correct misinformation. The IDF has now admitted that this renowned Palestinian journalist probably did die from an Israeli bullet during a shootout against terrorists. She was there covering it. When you said that she was deliberately targeted is an absolute lie.
She was definitely targeted. She had a helmet on.
Wait.
She had a helmet on, and she had armor.
She has covered.
Okay, so we've seen video footage about this.
Yeah. It's, by the way, a few of the captions are a little bit off. I was saying she had she had armor on, body armor. Yeah, there is video that she was shot, that there was absolutely no firefight going on at the time, that the only people there besides the press crew was an IDF truck down the street, completely quiet. And then all of a sudden the shots rang out, bang, bang, bang. She had a helmet on. She had, the body armor. And there was a very small spot where you could get a bullet through. Yep. There is no way that was accidental.
Yeah, no. For people who, I think most people watching, I think you guys are familiar with that situation. I know we talked about it, at least on RBN, when that happened. But yeah, she did have on body armor. So it was like, in order to hit her, you had to.
You had to aim.
Exactly. All right, let me finish.
There is no way.
She covered dozens
There
of
is
military.
no way. He took a direct shot.
No. She covered dozens of
He should let me
military.
talk.
She covered dozens of military raids. Why did they wait to?
It took a direct shot.
They were what?
It took a direct shot to get her between the helmet and the armor.
What is your source for this?
What my source? My source is forensics and the video.
I have no source.
And the video.
So Israel conducted a lengthy investigation about this, which is what they do always, and amazingly.
Why is he telling this to RFK? Did you guys notice this, how he turned to RFK Jr. to tell this to him? Why is he? Well, how is it that? Okay, I'll get into that question in a minute, but there's just something very off here about this whole energy, this whole vibe, him standing up, and RFK Jr. is just sitting there like mad chill. There's something really off here about the energy in this room.
They admitted it probably was an Israeli bullet, and unfortunately,
Mr. Kennedy,
journalists who died.
Mr. Kennedy,
it is tragic.
Don't you think that, Mr. Kennedy, do you not think that this? I am Jewish. Do not tell me that, Mr. Kennedy.
What did he say to you because you said I am Jewish?
Yeah. A second before that, when I said that she was targeted, he said to me, that's blood libel. He was basically calling me not Jewish.
Okay.
Please don't you believe that the U.S. should be able to adjudicate this. She was a U.S. citizen. She was also a journalist. And again, do you also commit to sitting down with the Jewish Voice for Peace and having a conversation with them, or do those Jewish voices not count?
I think that's a valid question. Like, why is he only willing to start to talk to certain Jewish people?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it seems like. Okay. And look at the energy, guys. Like, what is this? Is this his dad? Like, why is he standing? I don't like this dynamic. I feel like this is a power dynamic that I don't like.
Yes, they do. Thank you.
Okay, enough. Let him respond, and we're going to move on. Go ahead.
I don't know enough about the case to make a judgment about, extradition, and I don't know if we even have an extradition treaty for that particular crime.
Do you believe, how is it possible that he doesn't know about this, you guys? How is that possible?
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
And no, yeah, and not only that, but even if there weren't extradition laws in place, the United States gives Israel about $4 billion a year. You're telling me that they can't tell Israel, hey, you just killed one of our own. You're going to extradite this guy and he's going to be on trial. Otherwise, we're cutting off everything. And if Israel was an ally, they would go, yes, definitely.
Well, it's just like when the Saudi prince killed the American, remember the American journalist that was killed by the Saudi prince? There was no accountability. They're like, well, Saudi Arabia is an ally. There was no accountability. Like, these journalists should be protected. Oh boy.
Or what the basis of it would be in Israel or Palestine or wherever the killing took place. I just couldn't answer your question.
Since Israel is allies, they should be allies. Do you agree? All right, thank you. You are on record. Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Let me tell you something about this guy, okay? This dude here, because for people who don't know, Rabbi Shmuley, did you guys know that he ran for Congress in 2012 and he ran as a Republican? Did you guys know that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ran for Congress as a Republican in 2012, won the Republican primary, did not win the general election. Did you guys also know that he was friends with Michael Jackson? And apparently after Michael Jackson died, he wrote a book called The Michael Jackson Tapes. I also found out this guy was on a reality show. What is this really about?
He was definitely the Robert F. Kennedy's mouthpiece. I think that we heard more from Shmuley than we did RFK Jr. And in this particular interaction, the reason that he stood up and wanted to answer this question on RFK's behalf is because of the prior question that I asked that I think we'll probably get into later, where RFK just says the wrong thing, and Shmuley feels like he needs to step in and make sure that he doesn't go off track, off the narrative.
100%. If I could mention just a few of Shmuley's other friends.
Sure.
Trump, Ted Cruz, Steve Bannon.
What?
He has selfies with Steve Bannon.
I hope everybody's hearing this. Like, what is this really all about? With Steve Bannon, so I want to show you guys something. Fiorella caught this. Fiorella, this is also from this event as well. Fiorella said, while RFK acknowledged Israel has nuclear weapons, he either naively or disingenuously pretends Israel is not going to use their nuclear weapon unless they are attacked. Listen to this, a very short clip, but he admits that they have it.
Israel's use of a nuclear weapon is not going to happen unless it's attacked. And that, we know that. Israel's use of a nuclear weapon is not going to happen unless it's attacked.
And then this piece here about the journal. So this is the woman that was killed. Okay. So there is a mural here, and you can see the picture over towards the left. She has on a helmet and she has on the armor. She was covered. Okay. So it says deadly pattern. 20 journalists died by Israeli military fire in 22 years. No one has been held accountable.
So the IDF can murder Palestinians, U.S. citizens, journalists with impunity, the same way that here in the United States, our domestic police forces can murder civilians, especially black and brown and trans individuals, also with impunity. So this just goes to show you the relationship between the IDF forces, local domestic police forces. And in fact, for many people who don't know, the NYPD, we're both in New York City, the NYPD has an office in Israel, which is used to cross-train NYPD police in IDF tactics for crowd control. And what we're seeing with the IDF and the impunity that they have and the protection that they have from the U.S. government, it's just what we see here domestically as well. So I just want to point out that relationship.
It's just this lack of
called
empathy. Well, there seems to be, there's just this lack of empathy towards like the Palestinian people, and I don't know why RFK Jr. is in bed with these people. I don't know what this is all really about, but it just seems like to me this does not make sense. Like, you cannot say, I just saw a podcast that actually Roger Meadows sent me of RFK Jr. where he's in a black barbershop just chilling. And there's a clip where he talks about like reparations. So he goes on to say like, yeah, the money should be given to black institutions, but he's against cash reparations, which is what I figured. But how can you sit up there and make those statements in reference to black people, but you show no empathy in reference to the Palestinian people? This is all one fight. Like, this is not a separate thing. Just because they're abroad, this is all one fight. And so to me, there is something very off about this. I did not like the energy that was on that stage. That was odd to me. And it seemed like not just Rabbi Shmuley speaking for RFK Jr., but he was so quick to stand up and interrupt you as if you were going to say something that he did not want the rest of the people in that audience to hear. And that is very concerning to me. But again, I'm supposed to sit here and believe that RFK Jr. is going to stand up to the CIA. He's going to reform the CIA, and he can't even answer questions for himself.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I had a little rant there.
I would like to make a comment on the video that you played, Sabby, regarding Israel's nuclear stockpile. So for those that may not know, Israel has an undeclared arsenal of nuclear weapons. So that video that you played was actually a response to a question that I asked RFK Jr. I asked him, are you willing to demand that the IAEA, which is the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is tasked with inspecting the nuclear weapons that various nations around the world have, would he demand that the IAEA be, tasked with inspecting Israel's nuclear weapons capabilities, which again, it's a secret program that's not officially recognized. And also, would he demand that Israel sign on to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty? And his immediate response was, Israel is not going to use their nuclear weapons unless they are attacked, unless they are provoked. But we all know that Israel attacks and provokes its neighbors on a daily basis. Israel has bombed Syria at least 20 times this year alone, attacking critical infrastructure such as the largest airport in Syria, which is in Damascus. So For them to, for the state of Israel and the U.S. government to fearmonger about Iran's nuclear weapons and their capabilities is just pure hypocrisy, because they're allowing the state of Israel to have nuclear weapons completely unchecked. And in the 1990s, there was a whistleblower who worked in one of those nuclear facilities, and he blew the whistle, gave information about, his name was Mordecai. I can't remember his last name right now. Mordecai Vanunu. And he, was captured and tortured by Israel for just acknowledging that this the nuclear program exists. So the reason that we saw Shmuley standing up for Gadget Girl's question was because RFK stepped out of line. He acknowledged that the nuclear program exists. And I believe that he just didn't want RFK to further, tell the truth, which is actually what he accidentally did. Or we don't know if it was accidental or not, but clearly he knows that these nuclear weapons exist.
Okay, so there's another clip here, and this is from, I believe this is Lucy. Let me pull this up here from the event. After an absurd claim from Shmuley that RFK Jr.'s father was assassinated because of his support for Israel, remember Lucy asked RFK Jr. why he doesn't mention the Mossad's role in the, okay, yeah, this is the one. Let me play this one as well. And they really didn't like this question.
Was not the murderer of Robert J.F. Kennedy. He was not the murderer of Robert Kennedy's father. He was not the murderer. Mossad was implicated in the murder. Why are you lying? Why are you such a coward, Robert Kennedy? Why don't you say the truth about what actually happened and call for a real investigation into your father's murder?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Everyone, please ignore her. Thank you.
You see this? Once again, RFK Jr. is not the one responding.
Could have gone to Bobby Kennedy and his family and said, your father died for our people.
Was not the murder.
Yeah, this guy, man, there have been other things that I have noticed. I know Max Blumenthal has called this out as well, but it just seems to be that he does not seem to be willing to have this conversation with people who, again, may agree with him on other issues that he's running on, but doesn't agree with him in reference to Israel and Palestine. He's not willing to have that conversation with those people. He hasn't spoken to, and I know who has reached out. He hasn't spoken to Gray Zone, Max Blumenthal, like Aaron. He hasn't been on the Katie Halper show. He hasn't been on Useful Idiots. He hasn't been on Bad Faith. He hasn't been on any show that has a left audience. And it's something that I've noticed. Yes, he's been on Russell Brand. Yes, he's been on Glenn Greenwald, but their audience, the majority of their audience is not left. And so that says something to me. Like, what are you trying to do? Why are you avoiding the people who are really going to push you, especially someone like Max? Max is Jewish. So why are you avoiding those people? To your point, Ganja Girl, why is he avoiding certain Jewish people?
Yeah, and if I can add, something I've seen some people try to defend him with, and this is not me smearing RFK, I want to make this point, is the people who are saying, well, we can't be interested. This is a single issue problem. We can't just focus on that. This isn't a single issue problem. This is human rights and this is integrity. If you cannot stand up to power, and if you cannot reach out and get all the information, then why are you running for president?
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm starting to wonder, like, what is this really about? Like, are you really trying to run to be president, or is this a step for something else? There's this one more photo or video I do want to show. This gentleman here, I assume it looked like he was kicked out of the event. Lucy posted this. This is Paul from Bronx Greens. It says, I'm Jewish too. Paul from Bronx Greens said at the RFK Jr. event, as the audience jeered at him and called him not a Jew for disagreeing with reality TV Shalom in the Home and Secrets of Kosher Sex, Robbie Shmuley. Yeah, that was the name of the show. So I just want to play this clip here so people can see Paul as well.
This is exactly
why you're an asshole. Now you're kicking. You got your little dipshit lying, using someone. What a fucking asshole you turn out to be.
Stand up.
The stupidest thing I ever heard.
You see what I just called?
Fuck you, asshole.
And this is what Jews are facing.
No, I'm Jewish too, motherfucker.
You can see the hatred. You can see the
I love Jews. You hate
Palestinians. Yeah, you look like you love us.
Yeah, because I am
With
Jewish.
friends like you. My friends, now you see what the stakes are when we make false.
Oh my God. This guy gives me televangelist vibes.
Let me just point out one thing with that video. Paul's a good friend, by the way. We, the Bronx Greens, and Richie and the Bronx Anti-War Coalition, we're the kind of Bronx that AOC pretends to be.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And
forget
and
the
the reason
language, but sometimes it has to be said.
and the reason that Paul reacted in that manner was because everything that Shmuley was saying was just a complete lie. Saying that, the Palestinians have, the right to vote, that they're, treated better in Israel than in Palestine, just like complete garbage. And Paul just couldn't take it anymore. None of us could. Like I was sitting next to Gaijin Girl the whole time, but I'm like, I'm gonna throw up. I gotta bite my tongue because everything he was just saying was just a blatant lie, and Paul just couldn't help himself. And we support his reaction because that's how we were all feeling.
Absolutely. Among other things.
Oh, go ahead.
Just to give you one example. Because he was saying, "Oh, we're such an amazing country. We're diverse and blah blah blah," and you know that you cannot get married interfaith in Israel.
Really?
They'll recognize something from outside the country, but not inside the country. So there's something called pinkwashing, and they do it.
What about the Ethiopian Jews that are in Israel? There's another thing that Mint Press News actually had revealed this to me last year. I was not aware this was happening to them either. And for people who don't know, there are Ethiopian Jews in Israel. They're from Ethiopia. Some of them actually may have been born in Israel. They're also getting similar treatment to the Palestinians. It's not talked about as much because there aren't as many of them, I believe, as there are Palestinians, but they're getting that similar treatment. And a lot of people don't talk about it or don't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank both of you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it. And, more power to you. Thank you for getting that question out, because that question needs to be asked. I think that's why he doesn't want to. It's like if he does talk to someone, like if he does have this conversation with Max, like what if he brings Rabbi Shmuley with him to sit in the background and just look at him and say, what do I say? Thank you, guys. Thank you both.
Yeah.
If I could, just one last thing is I'd like to once again extend the request to RFK, if, in the $1 million chance that he's watching this, that he, number one, call for the extradition of the soldier who killed Shireen and sit down with JVP, and I will help broker it. It's not that hard, and all he has to do is do it. And he should.
There you go. All right, Ganja Girl and Richie, thank you both. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having us, Sabby. And if there's one last thing I want to tell your audience, we want to encourage everyone who's listening to do the same in your local communities. Whenever you have these politicians coming through to your town, to your city, we need you to go in there and ask the tough questions, because mainstream media and corporate media is not going to do this. As Sabby said, they're not going onto the left independent shows, and it's really up to us, the citizens to go to these events and to confront these politicians and get them on video and do the people a service. So please go out and do that. And hopefully what you saw today will be an inspiration to get you out into the field.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
Bye.
All right, guys. Well, a lot of information there to take in. I'm going to go to some of the comments and then we're going to get to this Obama story, which I think a lot of you probably want to hear about. Shout out to Queen Lions of Israel for becoming a Sabby member. Give her a big, or him a big whoop whoop. Thank you for the super chat, Roger. Shout out to me for doing a drive-by with my camera. That was you, Roger. That was Roger driving by. What's up? Matthew says, I live in Midwood. What's up? Someone knows what I'm talking about. What's up, Matthew? Pete says, Albert Einstein opposed an armed Jewish state and refused to be leader of Israel when asked. Thank you for this as well, Roger. Max Blumenthal warned us about this dude a few months back. That's right. And thank you for this as well. Richie, that was you. I recorded. I thought that was Keenan. And Robin says, RFK Jr. has no problem being censored by Rabbi Shmuley. I don't know, man. I don't know what is happening with all of this. But this next story, Barack Obama, if you have not heard, had a chef. And when I heard about this story and I saw some of the clips, I do remember seeing him before. I remember seeing his chef on TV before in the background. But Barack Obama's chef has died. Now, apparently, this happened at Martha's Vineyard. Another local story here, kinda. He was paddle boarding, and at first it was reported that the Obamas were not on the island. In the past 24 hours, that has been corrected, and now it has been reported that they were on the island. So here we go. Apparently, he was paddle boarding. I guess he lost his grip or whatever, went under, but did not resurface. So they're saying that he drowned. I have a couple of things to say about what I think may have happened, but I think we need to get into this story. I want you to hear, this is when it was first reported. And as I said, they've changed the story within the past 24 hours. Listen to this.
We're going to turn now to the tragedy of the Obama estate in Martha's Vineyard, where the family chef was found dead. The Obamas were not there at the time. We're learning more about what happened. DeMarco Morgan has the details. Good morning, DeMarco.
Good morning, guys. Talk about a tragedy here. The husband and father of two went missing about 100 feet offshore Sunday evening. His body wouldn't be recovered until the following day. The Obamas saying they now join the victim's family and those who knew him in grieving the loss of Tafari Campbell.
African-American male on a paddleboard, no life preserver.
This morning, tragedy unfolding near the Obama family's Martha's Vineyard estate. Police recovering the body of 45-year-old Tafari Campbell, a beloved personal chef and friend of the former president and first lady. The call for help came in Sunday evening for the missing paddleboarder, who witnesses tell police was last seen wearing all black before they eventually lost eye contact with him.
A 40-year-old male, possible drowning.
Campbell's paddleboard and hat would surface, but no sign of Campbell. Then the unimaginable. The husband and father of two found dead 100 feet from shore at a depth of about 8 feet in the Edgartown Great Pond. Police say divers found his body by deploying a side-scan sonar from a boat. Campbell first worked as a sous chef for the Obamas at the White House.
Gotta keep it under lock and key.
Seen here brewing beer in this White House video.
And this is where I remembered him before, when he was brewing the beer. And I was like, oh, wait, I saw this. I do remember this.
What you do is you take the beer bottle.
Now authorities investigating the drowning. Campbell was on the vineyard visiting. The Obamas were not there at the time of the incident.
Pause. So again, when it was first reported, they said the Obamas were not there. They were not on the island. But that information changed within 24 hours and said they were there on the island.
Mr. and Mrs. Obama released in a statement calling him a warm, fun, extraordinary, kind person who made all of our lives a little brighter, adding he was a talented sous chef at the White House. He's been part of our lives ever since, and our hearts are broken that he's gone. Campbell is survived by his wife and their twin boys. The couple's Instagram posts over the years showing their close relationship and tight-knit family.
And state and local police are investigating the incident. And guys, if you go to his Instagram page, it was full of life and personality. This is a loss right here. Yes.
It really was. And we're thinking of his wife and his twin boys right now. All right, DeMarco.
So before I show you this next clip, let me explain something. The first question I had to myself, if he drowned, maybe he didn't know how to swim. Now, some of you may wonder, why would you go paddleboarding if you don't know how to swim? Same reason why some people get on boats and don't know how to swim. I don't know. Maybe he thought there was no chance, no risk of drowning. But it turns out he did know how to swim. In fact, there's video footage here of him swimming away. Watch this. So this was his post. There's him swimming in the pool. Looks like he can swim to me. Now watch this. He can swim. He can even turn over. He can backstroke. Not everybody can do that. You know, may not be an expert swimmer, but he can do the backstroke. And I know people who can swim that can't do the backstroke, right? So then I had to ask myself, how did he drown? A couple of things could have happened when you're on a paddle boat, right? So your foot, there's a chain connected to your foot. The chain's connected to the boat. He could have slipped off the paddle boat, lost his grip, fell into the water. But I think what is still kind of weird to me is he still knows how to swim. And what is strange is that the person, the eyewitness, who we still don't know who this person is, the eyewitness that said they saw him go under and not come back up, the eyewitness never said they saw this person's head pop back up. So what could have prevented him from coming back up? Multiple things could have happened. Maybe when he slipped, there could have been something internal that was going on, like a health issue. Maybe that's what caused him to slip in the first place. You never know, right? Maybe he had an asthma attack or something like that. And that's what caused him to slip off the boat, fall into the water. And maybe that's why he wasn't able to swim back up. But what is a little strange is that they already said in the very beginning that the Obamas were not there on the island. Where did that information come from? And then two, they returned back and say they were on the island. Where did that information come from? Who gave them this information? And why haven't they named the eyewitness that saw him go underwater? So that's also something very questionable, right? Now, the Daily Mail said something that I thought was pretty interesting. Listen to this. Barack Obama's chef, Tafari Campbell, drowns in paddle board accident near 12 million Martha Vineyard's home of heartbroken ex-president. So I want to go down to this particular part here. They show a lot of pictures. That was him, you know, brewing the beer and stuff like that. See, there he was right there on the Today Show. He was brewing the beer in the background. But I want to go to this part right about here, the day of the incident. This is peculiar to me. We saw him last week. He was such a nice and happy guy. One staff member told dailymail.com he didn't seem to live here, but would be here a lot in the summer and fall and bought various things. He was nice and quiet. It's awful to hear that's happened to him. The employee added Campbell had been coming here for a few years now. When he came in, he would chat to us about what he was cooking up. One of the things he would always special order is juice, orange juice and strawberry lemonade. Now let's get to the day of the event. Campbell visited Martha Vineyard several times, playing golf on several occasions at the nearby Farm Neck Golf Club. Witnesses first told cops Sunday night that a man later identified as Campbell went underwater and then briefly reappeared as he struggled to stay afloat before submerging again around 7:46 p.m. Now you hear a different story, and this is why I wanted to show this to you guys. In this account, it was reported that he briefly reappeared as he struggled to stay afloat. But in other reporting, they said he never returned to the surface. Which is it? Why are there so many different stories surrounding this incident? Let's go on. The witness, who was not identified, was paddle boarding on Edgartown Great Pond with Campbell. A massive joint agency search was launched when a 911 call was made from the Obama Martha's Vineyard home on Turkeyland Cove Road. The former president and first lady were not at the residence at that time, but they were on the island. You see this? I told you guys, the story continued to change. And they left that out. They said they were not at the residence, but they left out the part that they were on the island. Let's continue. The dispatcher said Edgartown Fire and Water Rescue personnel, Turkeyland Cove Road, for a 40-year-old male, possible drowning. So they just told you that Turkeyland Cove was the Obama's address. So he was paddle boating at their address. So some people have asked this question, why would he have been at their home when they're not there? And to that point, that's why I said, but they were on the island. They may not have been at the house at that point in time, but they were on the island. See, you got to put these things together. Now, some people say, well, some rich people just let like their cooks or housekeepers like come to the house when they're not there. But if they weren't there, who was he cooking for? Let's continue. In the aftermath of the call, Chief Alex Schaefer of the Edgartown Fire Department told Vineyard Gazette, island police and firefighters conducted door-to-door searches. Firefighters also searched the pond's shoreline on foot. The search efforts resumed Monday morning for the venerated chef who was last seen wearing all black without a life jacket. Now, again, why would he not wear a life jacket? Because he could swim, as you saw in the video footage, right? His paddleboard and hat were recovered Sunday, and his body was found around 10 a.m. Monday in the 8-foot deep waters, approximately 100 feet away from the shore. 100 feet away. Let's continue here. I don't know, man. You see the pictures? So I want to show you the pictures here so you can see what this looks like. So here's the Obama's estate. Okay. There's the water. You see here the boats, the little like canoes and stuff right here. Okay. All right. Here's the water. The state's right there. And there's the estate again. It says the recovery mission was just yards away from former President Obama's Massachusetts 7-bedroom home, right near the water. So he wasn't even that far away when they found him. Let's go down. So that's the dispatcher call.
Water rescue personnel. Echo 90 and Echo unit. Responded 7979 Turkeyland Cove for a 40-year-old male, possible drowning. It's controlled to Edgartown Fire Water Rescue personnel. Echo 90 and Echo unit. Respondent number 7979 Turkeyland Cove Road for a 40-year-old male, possible drowning. Units acknowledged.
Okay. Now it goes on to say, In a statement Monday, the Massachusetts State Police said shortly before 10 a.m., the body of the missing paddleboarder was recovered from Edgartown Great Pond by Massachusetts State Police divers. MSP Underwater Recovery Unit divers made the recovery after the victim's body was located by a Massachusetts environmental police officer deploying side scan sonar from a boat. The U.S. Coast Guard, Edgartown Fire, Air Wing, detectives, and Dukes County Sheriff's Department were all part of the rescue mission. A command post was later set up at Wilson's Landing, which is across the narrow cove from Obama's mansion. Just after midday, Edgartown Police Department confirmed that Wilson's Landing had been reopened. Edgartown Great Pond is an 890-acre body of water. The investigation into the man's death is being conducted by state police with the Cape, et cetera, et cetera. But you know why this is a little odd? Because something similar to this happened before. Not with Barack Obama, but with the Clintons. Maybe this is all just a coincidence. I don't know. But this is a little bit weird. A lot of people may not remember Walter Scheib. Who was Walter Scheib? After the tragic death of Tafari Campbell, details of drowning death of Hillary Clinton's chef resurface. I kid you not. I can't make this up. There's Hillary. And this gentleman here to the left, that was her chef. Okay, so let's take you back in time. As the Obamas mourn the loss of their personal chef, some individuals on Twitter have been quick to point out a previous tragedy involving another White House chef. Make this bigger. In 2015, Chef Walter Scheib, who was hired by First Lady Hillary Clinton during Bill Clinton's administration, also lost his life in a drowning incident in New Mexico. It's just, that wasn't that long ago. 2015. There's more. The occurrences of both White House chefs dying by drowning have sparked bizarre and unfound conspiracy theories, and social media has been abuzz with comparisons between the two cases. Two White House chefs have died. Twitter users have drawn parallels between the deaths. Though both died in different drowning tragedies and have no similarities besides being chefs who served presidents and their families at the White House, the conspiracy theorists had a field day linking the two deaths. One Twitter account made a post that read, "Two White House chefs have now died from drowning." In 2015, the chef for Bill and Hillary Clinton died from drowning while hiking in New Mexico. Walter Scheib's death was confirmed an accidental drowning after he was hiking alone in New Mexico mountains. How do you drown in the mountain? Somebody let me know. How do you drown in the mountain? Walter Scheib's death was confirmed accidental drowning. His body was found submerged in a mountain drainage flowing with surface runoff about 25 yards off the Yerba Canyon hiking trail, hidden from view by vegetation and a steep decline off the trail, according to police statement at that time. It's just, there's one of the tweets there. Oh no, man. Sourced from CNN, the post made unfounded speculation as one user agreed with them, commenting, "All I can say is the odds of the drowning after being a White House chef are getting higher." Look at this, man. I don't know if it will let you see here. Yeah, that's just the source of that tweet. We'll go back to where we were. But it's just So a lot of people are like, what is happening here? Scheib served as a White House executive chef. An autopsy conducted, Walter Scheib concluded that his death was accidental, as confirmed in a statement by the department. Scheib, who had served as a chef under Presidents Bill Clinton and George W. Bush, went missing on June 13th after embarking on a solo hike along a mountain trail in Taos, New Mexico. Indeed, Walter Scheib held the position. He was personally appointed to this role by then First Lady Hillary Clinton and stated on the Scheib's official website. His body was discovered submerged in a mountain drainage area, which was carrying surface runoff approximately 25 yards away from the Yerba Canyon hiking trail. So, I mean, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying, it's a little weird. It's a little strange and odd. And this isn't the only one. There was a gentleman that worked for the Clinton administration. This was right after Bill Clinton won. I have to look up that guy's name. This was right after Bill Clinton won. He had worked for Bill Clinton for 6 months. All of a sudden, this guy's death was ruled a suicide. And apparently, according to Linda Tripp and some others, not many people really wanted to talk about this guy. Hold on, let me look that up. I saw this because I went over this before. Hold on. Hold on. I'm coming. Clinton guy. Suicide. Aha, yes. Vince Foster. That was his name. Vince Foster. I told you. There's just something a little bit off here. A little bit off. Hold on, let me pull up that thing. Okay, I'm gonna share it with you guys. We'll have to do Tennessee tomorrow, Eric. Sorry. I know Eric's probably like, damn it. We'll have to finish Tennessee tomorrow. Look at this. I have to show you about Vince Foster because this is a hoot. Vince Foster, you guys remember this guy? Heard of him? Let's go to life and death. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but I'm just saying, let's just get straight to the point when it comes to Vince. Now, he was a lawyer in Arkansas prior to this. Listen to this, depression and death. 4 days after the commencement speech, the White House Travel Office controversy erupted. Foster was the target of several critical Wall Street Journal articles or editorials in June and July in 1993 with titles such as, "Who is Vincent Foster?" He became quite upset over the travel office matter and the possibility of a congressional hearing at which he might have been called to testify. Disliking the public spotlight and having continued weight loss and insomnia, he considered resigning his position, but feared a personal humiliation upon returning to Arkansas. Struggling with depression, which after his death was assessed as clinical depression, Foster was prescribed the antidepressant medication trazodone over the phone by his Arkansas doctor, starting with a low initial dosage. The next day, Foster was found dead in Fort Marcy Park, a federal park in Virginia. He was 48 years old. An autopsy determined that he was shot in the mouth and no other wounds were found on his body. A draft resignation letter was found torn into 27 pieces in his briefcase. The letter contained a list of grievances, including the Wall Street Journal editor's lie without consequence and saying, "I was not meant for the job or the spotlight of public life in Washington. Here, ruining people is considered sport." So, again, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying it's a little odd, a little weird. Linda Tripp and all her craziness. This is one issue where she was correct about how everybody else in her wing of the White House where she worked just basically overlooked this and was just like, just keep it business as usual. And to her, that was someone that was her friend, wasn't just a coworker. And she was just basically told, like, suck it up and keep it moving. Coincidence? Maybe. I'll let you decide. But that's something to think about. We will do call in tonight. I figure you guys probably want to have some things to chat about. I'm going to take a break really quick. Eric, I think we have Rockfin chats maybe left to read, but I'll be back and we'll chat about that.
All right. All right, we are back at it. We are going to do call-ins. This is where we give Sabby a little break before we get into the call-in. She'll pop back in and we'll jump into call-in. If you're wondering how do we jump into call-in, I just posting the link into the chat, so you can do call-in by hitting that link and bringing it up on your browser, or you can, let me get that banner, there we go, call-in starting soon, or you can install the call-in app on your smartphone and you can listen in, you can participate. We want to hear, that didn't work, posting to the chat. We want to hear what you think. Oh, I think that one worked. Yeah, the YouTube chat's been funky at times, but yeah, we want to hear what you think. All right, I'll try posting it over here. Let's see, that ain't it. Sabby will also post it at as the pin chat. If it doesn't, wow, this chat is like all of a sudden acting up. I'm trying to post the link into it. But also, if you go to callin.com and search up Sabby Sabs, you can also find it there. Let me bring up the page here to show you. And then we'll also look at some chats. Here we go. Here's the page. All right, calling tonight. She put in RFK Jr. confronted and Obama's chef died. So you can talk about that. You can talk about anything. The main thing is we want to hear from you, what you got to say. Let me see if that link finally worked. I'm trying to paste it in. I think it's working. All right. So let me see what else I got to. Oh, yeah. All right. Let's look at, we got a couple of chats here. We'll get the link for you. Yeah, let me get it this way. I know. Yeah, YouTube's acting really weird. It's like it's not letting me paste off the browser. Wow, YouTube's acting up. Anyways, we'll be going to comment pretty soon. It's probably just as well. Let's see. We got a couple of chats to catch up on here. Thanks for the super chat from Marvin Vargas. Great guest, Sabby. Hope people learned a lot. Thanks for that, Marvin. And I think Sabby started this one saying he went paddleboarding at night. Yeah, we got some questions around that case. And we'll see what comes out of it. Did it finally let me post into the chat? I think it did. All right. Yeah, YouTube is getting funny. There you go. All right. So if you want to get early into the call-in, we got it there. We also had some Roger Meadows posts to the Rockfins. Let's check out some of those. Roger posted some of this a while back. So let's get these read out. Thanks for this paid comment on the Rockfin, Mr. Roger. Sabby left out what came before all that voting for the CARES Act. I think he's talking about AOC in this one, which marked the largest upward transfer of wealth in this nation's history, which happened 9 months before Force the Vote. Like he's talking about, you knew about AOC and you knew about these Democrats. Nothing on supporting Juan Guaido in the regime change of Venezuela. But before all that, when she replaced Chaka and Trent with former Hickenloopers and Kamala staff. Yeah, talking about AOC did the staff turnover from the people that got her in there, and seemed to be real lefty, and she replaced them with like just kind of standard Democrats. And he said, stop making appearances on indie media, Iron Dome funding. Oh my God, abolish ICE. Thanks for that, chat, Roger, and also thanks for this on the Rock Fins, Sharelle. Made by American Jewish community in support of Palestinians, Israelism, film official teaser. And he puts a link there. You can check that out from the Rock Fins. And thanks for that on the Rock Fin. Now, one thing that that we had a little while ago that I wanted to point out, let me bring that up. Or there was kicking around browsers. There was a really good RBN live stream earlier. Show that. Here it was with that had. There we are. That had Jill Stein and Shama Sawant, and they were really good on that. I'd recommend that. One of the really interesting things that I caught on that stream was that they were talking about the UPS strike settlement, and Shama was saying, pointed out some real flaws in the deal that was done there, and her recommendation was that the rank and file should vote it down. And I thought that was a really interesting take. So yeah, definitely recommend checking that out. And of course, you had Jill Stein, and she's the current campaign manager for the Cornel West campaign. And another thing I noticed, I'm always checking on the Cornell site to see what they're doing with it, to see how the campaign's developing. And I did notice that they have they changed the issues part of it, in that, or now they have it as policies, and they have dismantling the empire, unleashing democracy, and saving the planet, which are good policies. I mean, I like what they're, what he says and where he's coming from and the things that he says, but I don't know, sometimes it feels like when they put these things out there, it's kind of wordy. It's like I wish it were more of just more concise, more like a list of things, and just and to say to show what I have in mind is like, this is on my site, 11 Demands, and I just took a crack at what would a good proposed platform for a real lefty candidate look like. And if you go to 11demands.org, if you want to read this in detail or whatnot, you can see that. But I'm throwing this out there. I don't know if anyone, if Jill or Cornell or anyone in the campaign's listening or whatnot, and they want some ideas, feel free to steal this. But I just wish there was, and I hear this from Cornell, so this is part of why I am, excited about the campaign, that he does focus on the corruption. One of his favorite things, he's saying, there's more corruption in the White House than in the crack house. And, so, I would like to see the campaign and what they put out there just really focus on that and really hammer on that. You need to clean out government corruption, and then you connect it to all the other things we want, and you want, and you can just make this, like, this could be on a site, and you could have these bullet points just be out there, and then when you click on them, open them up to the detail. So you want healthcare for all, you want create a minimum standard of living for everyone, you want end the wars, you want protect civil liberties, you want racial and criminal justice reform with reparations, being front and center, you want, of course, respond to the climate emergency, and you want revitalize our economy, immigration reform, election system, and revamp taxation, and then always come back to the corruption and the money. And then the other thing, and I'll end with this, is that when we talk about corruption and the money, you also need to talk about the solutions. What does that really mean to do something about that? And so, we should talk about corruption, always focus on the money, and then pivot it to the solutions, which are passing laws for public financing of campaigns and a constitutional amendment to fix corporations, people, and money is speech. So that's my little spiel. my little proposed platform ideas, and people can do with it what they like. And now we're going to go to call-in.
So I have to schedule a new room because the app was being wonky. So I'm doing one right now. Okay. And then I deleted the other one. So let's go
Chaos.
to
This is chaos.
yeah, it's not letting you. It's really weird. Like I can't schedule, I can't add a show, I can't do anything. Like it won't let me.
Have
Let
they
me see,
pulled the
start a
plug on it? I
room.
hope not.
There's a problem creating your room. I don't know what's wrong with it. Like even when I go to the profile, like on my phone, it doesn't let me. Like on the computer, I see everything. But on my phone, I can't. It's the app. See if you can go into the app, Eric, and see what you see. Let me see. Give me a second. I'm trying to
So I
figure
can
this
get in
out.
there with the browser. Let's see, call in.
Let me put on the.
Seems like I'm I can play
Like
back
I'm in
the
the
Thursday
app.
one.
Yeah, but when I go to, even when I click on profile, it won't let you see anything. It's just a blank screen, but on the desktop, I can see it, which is really, really weird. Like I've never seen this before. So I don't know if, let me see. I can't see anything on here. Let me check on the computer to see if they changed something.
Can you make the room on the computer? You might have to do
Yeah,
a
but I
login.
can't. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see if it'll. All right, it lets me go to updates, but it will not pull up my profile. Not on the phone. Let me see here if I can do it on the computer. Let me go to.
Maybe reboot your phone while you're trying it on the computer.
Let me try to do that.
You know, it's the old IT guy's solution. You turn it off and turn it back on again.
Let's see. And let me
That's
try
step
the
one.
computer. Yeah, on the computer, I see everything. All right, let me see if it lets me schedule on the computer.
Are you logged in on the computer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, give it a shot there, and then maybe hopefully get in with your phone.
Well, it let me.
The
Okay, there we go.
YouTube chat was acting weird too. Like I was trying to let me see what happens if we try the link we had put in before. Everybody's going crazy. You're gonna be going like, what is this? What is this? What does that do?
Here.
Now, if I click on the other link, it just goes to your general account. But if you can make a room,
Why doesn't it let you?
I mean, we've been wondering too, like, what's up with Colin? You know, is it, are they going to transfer the technology? Are they going to keep it going?
They haven't said, yeah, they haven't said anything. Like they won't let me. You can't create a room on the computer.
Try it with your
Like,
phone again.
let me try. Like you can, when you go to schedule, it won't even let you hit create, which is really weird. Like this never happened before. And there's people live right now. So let me see. Maybe it won't let you schedule, but it'll let you just do live. Let's see.
Yeah, just try. Try to, create a new show. or create a room or whatever it is.
It won't let you create a room.
Can you do go live?
Let me try.
We're trying for you, everybody.
Sorry,
We're
guys.
trying. We're trying. We're going to make it happen.
Confronted.
Oh, just title it anything.
Okay. Add show. See, yeah, it doesn't let you.
Uh-oh.
Something is totally off. Like totally off with the app. Oh, private. Let me get rid of that. Caller queue. See, there's a problem creating your room. It won't let you start a room. Let me make sure I have everything
JB says it's
updated.
glitching like Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, it's weird. Notifications. Let me see if it needs to be, if there's an update that's missing. I don't know why there would be though. Updates available. Yeah, there's no update for a call-in. Let me see what happens on the computer. Maybe if I go live on the computer.
Throw the shot.
Let's see. And I can just open it on my phone. All right, let's see.
We're doing it live. That's the thing with tech. Like you get dependent on it. You get dependent on it, and you kind of assume it's going to be there.
It's live on the computer.
Okay, we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere.
So then let me see.
Let me see if I can see it. If you're already on the Sabby page, if you do a refresh,
it won't let me join the room. There was an error in joining the room. This is crazy.
Let's see.
Oh, wait.
So the room's up.
Lysol said Sabby need a room. Maybe I should go to that one.
Well, your room's up and live.
I can't. Yeah, I can't join any.
It's there. Now.
Right, but I can't join any rooms.
We gotta get you in. Can you do like a log out and a log in?
Of call-in?
Yeah, on your phone.
Let me try. This is crazy. Like earlier, this was completely fine.
People think they're messing with you. So yeah, the room's there. I got it in as well. Now we just got to get you in it.
Yeah, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Like I can't join any room I click on. It won't let me join any room. And I see my room is live, but I can't do anything. And I can't update the app either. I don't know what to do. Okay, here's what we'll do. I guess, Eric, if you can join the room, go ahead and start it.
I don't think I can unless you make me a moderator, though. See, I'm just...
Okay, let me do that.
Will it let you do that?
Share user.
Oh, yeah, you can do that on the browser.
So how do I do that?
I don't know offhand, but
Invite to speak.
okay, do that.
Okay, I just invited you to speak.
Okay, that gets me up there. And then can you make me a moderator?
Yes.
All right, do that. All right. Oh, Roger said you could also uninstall and reinstall the app.
Okay. Well, while I do that, can you?
Yeah, I'll run the room.
Run the room. Give me a couple minutes. Give me about 10 to 15 minutes.
All right, and just you can text me on my phone.
Okay.
How it's going, or
all right, guys, I'll be back.
All right, we'll see you in the
Bye.
call-in.